Hey guys, let's talk about this Trump shooting. I quickly want to talk about this DV situation I'm in. I'm going to do a video at a later time. Imagine a lot of you guys are interested in this, at least some perspective on the shooting that took place at this rally in Pennsylvania against Trump, an assassination attempt. It was hard for the national media to put that out. It's like, call it what it is. It was an assassination attempt. Before I get into that, I want to briefly say my criminal case is behind me. It's been dismissed. Also, I am in an Airbnb displaced from my home because I'm still dealing with the DCFS side, the Department of Child Protective Services. I've talked about this on Meta. I've done that on both Facebook and Instagram. And so some of you might not even know. All my charges criminally were taken from felonies to misdemeanors, from misdemeanors to dismissed. And that typically doesn't happen. It happened because of testimony, evidence, and likely misconduct and civil rights violations by the Provo Police Department. I'll get into that at a later time, but that's definitely on the docket for me to lay out that case so you could learn lessons from me, not make the same mistakes I made during this, and then understand how the system will churn you in it if it happens to you. I'm very humbled and grateful from all the support that I've gotten. A lot of people have asked, how can they support me or support my family? The best way you can support me is by supporting Fieldcraft Survival, because my company, I say our company because I feel like it's our company. I mean, I started this a decade ago with the intent of helping people across the country be better prepared, is hurting. We took a huge revenue hit when all of this leaked through a targeted action while I was still incarcerated. And that targeted hit has destroyed revenue, cut revenue in half. And we're at risk of laying off a lot of people. I've already laid off some people. We're at risk of laying off more. And I don't know what the future is going to be for Fieldcraft. It's sad for me to say that out loud, but it's the reality of the situation that I'm in. There are things that I'm doing personally to kind of mitigate that. I got a meeting next week. I actually got a meeting tomorrow about this. And I hope to get it and restructure it to where we survive, but I don't know if that's the case, man. I don't know if that's going to happen. So the best thing you do is go on fieldcraftsurvival.com, sign up for training, buy equipment, go download the app. Anything that you can do, I'm grateful for, because it will help these employees that work for me who have invested their entire lives in making you better prepared. So I glossed over it, but the DCFS action rolls out at the same time of the criminal action, and despite the dismissal, they don't care. So I'll talk a lot about that. Let's talk about this Trump shooting that took place. So the information we have as of today is it was a 20-year-old male climbed up onto basically it's a barn stall. It's a fairground, a county fairground. You have hay barns, you have livestock barns, because at these fairgrounds, they do, all kinds of activities, all kinds of things for whether it's 4-H or festivals or whatever it is. They're going to have these buildings, these structures. And this structure was elevated. I would say it was elevated. It was like a warehouse type structure. It was made of metal, had a metal roof, a tin roof, or it wasn't 3-4 stories, but it was enough elevation where it would concern me. It was also reported to be about 120 to 150 yards from where the Trump rally was positioned on the fairgrounds. Now, this is rural PA, at least a rural part of PA, and Secret Service and police, I saw county sheriffs, likely the regional FBI SWAT team, a whole bunch of assets were poured into this to protect former President Donald Trump. What you heard was a series of shots. I reported it. I initially thought out the gate, because of the rate of fire, that it was likely an AR, small caliber. It sounded suppressed, but that's likely from the mic that was inside of the rally. And you heard the snaps and cracks. I thought maybe it might have even been subsonic, because I was thinking it was likely somebody from inside the rally that broke shots on the president, because what is the likelihood of somebody breaking shots on the president from outside of this very specific rally? I thought very unlikely. I knew it was rural. There was likely not structures that were elevated above the rally. And if there were, they would be protected. They would be locked down. A Secret Service counter sniper team winded up taking out the shooter, but not before he got off 7 to 8 rounds, critically injured 2, killed 1 gentleman, and then shot Donald Trump in the head. A lot of people are reporting, especially in the national media, Donald Trump gets shot in the ear. No, he got shot in the head. Let's not church that up. He got shot in the head. Now that round, because 223 rounds, which is being reported that it was an AR platform, 223 rounds do some funny things. I know guys that have been shot in the back and the round came out their shoulder. I know guys who've been shot in the head and it went up through their helmet and came out the back of their neck. Those rounds, obviously .223 or 5.56 millimeters, are very small and moving at a high rate of speed. You think 120, 150 yards out, 120, 150 meters out, 300 to 400 feet, that round is moving. It's hauling. So when you look at a round that's traveling a couple thousand feet per second and that hits you in the ear, that's a headshot. That's an inch away from impacting your cheek and potentially in your head, compromising your cranium. So let's not pretend like this wasn't deadly and it was just a grazing wound. He might have took the round, I don't know the angle of attack here, but he might have took the round and it skipped off his head. He might have took the round and it lacerated his ear, and it could have been the same round that killed the spectator behind him. This is definitely a deadly thing that happened. Now, the pictures that I saw, the video that I saw, there was 2 counter snipers. Now, my background is I was a sniper. I was a sniper most of my career. I went to Special Operations Target Interdiction course, which is what Green Beret, Delta, Ranger snipers go to. The best snipers. We go to that schoolhouse to qualify us as snipers. That's not where my expertise comes in, because I'm likely outdated. I'm already old and don't understand the new weapon systems and optics and ballistic calculators these guys are using. I can tell you a little bit about what I saw from the picture I saw, but what I do know as a senior sniper who evolved into a master sergeant, into a sergeant major, is the understanding of how to plan sniper operations, including counter sniper operations, as well as PSD operations. I part of my job in GRS, the Global Response Staff Office for the agency, was obviously PSD. It was just a different type of it. But I have done protective services for presidents and generals. So I know the general scheme of maneuver. But if you're a PSD expert or a Secret Service agent, I don't mean to insult your intelligence by saying something that's not true. So I'll keep the very specific tactical components of it out of it. Also for some OPSEC purposes as well. When you look at a counter sniper team and the orientation where they're located, they were likely covering the structures that were above and likely the threat to the rally. Those snipers appeared to be squared away according to an observation of their kit and their guns. I think the guy who was kind of sitting up had a more elevated position. Not the guy who was laying prone, but the guy who had an elevated position had likely a 25 plus magnified variable optic. And I think he had probably a 40 power. I don't know if 40 power is the new hotness, but I know Schmidt and Bender came out with above 25 power, so it might even be 40 power. Now, what does 25 power look like as a variable optic at 100 yards? Insane, right? You're talking about looking at looking through your objective lens and seeing the dude's eyeball zoomed in. I mean, if you're a hunter, you know this. Like, too much variable magnification is not a good thing. I mean, it's good to have, but man, you have to dial back out because you need to get a kind of situation awareness of the big picture. I thought, based on his actions of lifting his head off the glass and then back in, that he likely had to do some fine-tune adjustments based off of that. And by the time he broke the shot, it looked to be a 338 lapua. If you know, because you're a Secret Service guy or you have some expertise, let us know in the comments below. It looked like a 338 lapua or a heavy bore or big bore rifle, 300 Win Mag at a minimum. I'm thinking 338 lapua. So let's say 300 Win Mag, 338 lapua. I mean, anything. What's your hold at that distance? You're holding center of the reticle. There's no dial up required. I imagine the Secret Service doesn't use a bullet drop compensator to dial their elevation because they have to do rapid engagement scenarios. I mean, I don't think many people are doing that anymore, except for maybe the Marines are doing it in the schoolhouse. But even Marines now are running Horus type reticles, that allow you to use a Christmas tree reticle to elevate and hold your dope above the target. But at 100 to 200 meters, there is no hold. It's center mass, which is a good thing, right? A good thing for a rapid engagement scenario or just having the target in your lens. But what the impression I got, because he came off the glass, is he had a difficult time because he was likely dialed in. He came off the glass, saw it, he had to see it with the naked eye, then got back into it. And then I think he broke the shot. It's hard to tell in the video, but from all the video analysis that I've seen, people are saying that's when he broke the shot. I don't know if the dude in the prone broke the shot or he broke the shot. What's important to understand is that those snipers likely saved a lot of lives. So do credit where credit, give them credit. Now, a lot of people are saying, some outlets are saying these guys are heroes. They would not see themselves that way. It's like doing a special operations rotation downrange as a Ranger, Green Beret, operator, whatever. You kick in doors every single night. You breach doors, you go into foreign fighter safe houses, and you go after bad guys. Those aren't heroic actions. That's just doing your job. A heroic action is running back in a building that's on fire, under fire, multiple times to save a whole bunch of hostages, like Pat Payne of Delta Force did, being awarded the Medal of Honor for that. That's valor. That's being a hero. None of these dudes would see themselves as being heroes. They were doing their job. Now, the problem for me is not them. The problem for me is not the Secret Service agents who ran and very quickly and rapidly, when they assessed in a millisecond what was going on, they put their bodies, their plates, their armor on top of Trump. I said it went right when it happened. I saw the video. There's likely a Secret Service agent who has a round somewhere in him. I mean, this happens all the time, right? And when you do combat operations or protective details under fire, those rounds that are coming are going somewhere. If that dude got 7 to 8 rounds off and those guys got their bodies or their plates on that package, there might be a round in somebody's body armor. There might be a round in somebody's duty belt. There might be a round that went through the blazer of one of the officers and impacted a spectator. They did a very good job. I don't know the intricacies of the SOP on how they do that, but they did a really good job. Now, you can nitpick it all you want, and there's a lot of little funny things that happen. There's a lot of people running around, and I saw this one gal try to put away her pistol like 10 times, which I'm like, why would you put your pistol away at all? Especially you're 5 feet from Trump, and you got your pistol, and you're trying to put it in your holster. And she couldn't find it, and then she finally looked at it and put it away instantaneously. Again, under stress. You can nitpick a whole bunch of different stuff, but I think fairly well were their actions and all the things that I looked at. Here's the problem. The Secret Service, if you're a nug, let me just call you a nug, a person on the ground who just has a specific job, you don't have a lot of say-so on specific things you do in lining out. Like the advanced team, the Advon comes and they look at the perimeter, they lock down certain parts of it. You don't have a lot of say-so in that. You show up, you're given, the GOS or the GRG, you're given basically a grid reference to what's going on. They tell you the line out of the buildings. You make your own little kind of sector sketch analysis in your head, and then you get locked into position and you protect and defend. The number one priority in protecting anybody and protective services is, you got a protective security detail. You got to prevent the attack. Now, that's hard in a lot of different environments. When I did PSD, guarding a general, for example, you can get somebody walking up, going to shake a hand, and clocks himself off. There's a very dynamic world that exists in combat theater type PSD. When you have all the control because you're setting the parameters, the rally or the Trump team is laying out, hey, this is what we want to do. You get to control and constrain all of the specific things to make it safer. The fact that the building that was 120 to 150 meters away was not blocked off, meaning no access, and the perimeter was not set beyond that is beyond me. I don't know how that happens. Because the assumption, and now this is an assumption, I can't figure it out any other way unless he slept in a bale of hay or a bale of hay and woke up and crawled through the rafters and was able to get out, which he might have done. How would a shooter with a rifle that's been reported by spectators to be climbing the building, climb a building within a perimeter with an AR, get on that perimeter, set up a position, and have enough time to break off 8 shots? Thank God he had a poor zero or just was not trained to fire under stress or just didn't have a stable plot. Whatever the anomalies are, he didn't do well at what his intention was. So the fact that he was able to do that is the overarching problem, because that doesn't speak to me as a success. It speaks to me as a failure. Now, who had to clean that up? The counter sniper team. Also, remember, when you're a counter sniper team, in this case, you call it shooter spotter, but most details are set up where you have a shooter, and these guys are assessing, observing, and then have the ability to both shoot because they were both on guns when this action took place. That is a very limited asset. So what other assets would you bring to bear? I don't know, helicopters, drones, perimeter security, a sound plan of security access. The list goes on. There's a whole bunch of things you could do. Seemingly, to blame the snipers would be irresponsible because it's not the sniper's fault. They didn't set the perimeter. They didn't allow a person to infiltrate the building, get on top of it, and they had a lot to cover. Through their ocular and objective lens on how much they had in their field of view, they were using naked eye, looking above, observing, and having to go to glass and make that decision rapidly. And how long did it take to break 7 to 8 shots? Not that long, guys. You guys saw the video. Thank God that round was not an inch outside of the deviation, because Trump would have been dead. He would have got shot in the face. Can you imagine? People texted me last night. Would the country have burned to the ground if that happened? Maybe. It's why we started American Contingency so many years ago, AMCON so many years ago. We started AmericanContingency.com because we were like, well, how are people going to rally together to build rapport, relationships, and support for one another when this type of situation happens? We were this close potentially to having a civil, very crazy uprising. And it ain't over. It ain't over. Now, I'm one who also believes, you're a government official. You're being protected by a detail that belongs to a different administration. Is that the best course of action for protection? I don't think so. Now, remember, a lot of these guys on his specific detail work with him and for him since he was president. But when you look at the big picture, having potentially unbiased people checking and balancing that process and protocol needs to be done. No doubt needs to be done. I mean, look, I don't want to think the worst about people, but you better believe there were people in the opposing party who were disappointed that it worked out the way it worked out. That were disappointed that it worked out the way it worked out. And, you know, we're talking about tolerance and nonviolence. What do you think is going to happen when you've been striking the matches on the Tinder bundle for years? You're going to create radical people in radical times. And so there's been a lot of communication about how radical one side is, this side. But the proof, case in point is what just happened yesterday. I mean, the proof, case in point is what happened years ago with all the specific riots that were taking place with no consequence. I would say overall that the Secret Service did a really good job. Who didn't do a good job is the people who were in charge. Whoever the advance team was, the supervisors that were on the advance, the guys who decided not to make that part of the building within the perimeter, whoever was specifically in charge of the security on that building, it ain't hard, man. You look at the big picture, all these guys are experts. It don't take a lot of experience in the Secret Service for one guy to go, man, there's a building there. It's elevated, and that's a perfect platform 120 yards away, 120 meters away to where President Trump is sitting. That needs to be navigated and figured out because I hate to say it, whether it's somebody being biased, not paying attention on purpose, unintentional or intentional, there's a reason why that wasn't brought into the perimeter or protected very specifically. I don't know what that reason is. We can speculate all we want. Oh, man. What a crazy time to be alive, man, in this country. We got a lot to talk about, a lot of things to be prepared for. I appreciate all you guys' support along the way. Sorry for the quality of this video. It ain't the best. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. I'm headed off to do a podcast with Andy Stumpf. Look forward to that on the Cleared Hot podcast. Got to meet with Ironclad. Crossing my fingers. Hope to do a couple projects with those guys. And crossing my fingers as well with Penguin Random. It'd be great to keep this book deal, but all things based on the situation that I've been in are on the table and are not concrete based on everything that happened. I appreciate you guys. Until next time, peace out.